will call this meeting to order. This is the City of Buckeye Council Workshop for December 16, 2025. Do we have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Yonker.
Here.
Councilmember Berry.
Here.
Councilmember Hegestad is absent. Councilmember Beard.
Here.
Councilmember Hustis.
Here.
Vice Mayor Goodman.
Present.
And Mayor Horsford.
Present. Thank you very much. We are going to take things slightly out of order just because of scheduling conflicts and motion to recess the workshop until 4:30 p.m. We're going to go to the council workshop executive conference room. So we'll need a motion to do so.
Mr. Mayor, move to recess the workshop until 4:30 p.m. today, at which time the scheduled workshop will resume.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second to recess. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
And opposed? And we are in recess until 4:30 p.m.
Test one, two. Test one, two.
Yes, sir.
So we'll call this meeting to order. This is the City of Buckeye Special Council meeting and Council Executive Session for December 16, 2025. With a roll call, please.
Councilmember Yonker. Here. Councilmember Berry. Here. Councilmember Hegestad is absent. Councilmember Beard.
Here.
Councilmember Hustis.
Here.
Vice Mayor Goodman.
Present.
Mayor Osborne.
Present. Thank you very much. Item number 2 is convene into executive session upon a public majority vote. Mayor and council will convene into executive session pursuant to the 2 statutes for the discussion that is outlined there. Do we have a motion to do so?
So moved.
I have a motion and a second to convene in executive session. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
And opposed? And we are in executive session. Assistance, Community Services, Water Resources, and Utility Billing Fees prepared by consultant MGT. Madam House of that, and Brian Craig, you are presenting.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and Council. It's actually a two-part presentation tonight. I'll be swift. We'll go through development services and some other ancillary fees, and then we'll switch gears, and Miranda will bring us home the last 20, 30 minutes of the 1 hour that we have allotted. Just briefly, we'll just highlight what's in the current user fee schedule, what it includes, what it doesn't include, talk about how the city went about approaching the update and some of the philosophies behind that, hit on just a few select West Valley comparisons, and then I do want to talk about some of the more significant changes, maybe more notable changes that are occurring both up and down with the fee proposed. That'll come back in the spring, and then just a look ahead at what the remainder of the fee adoption timeline looks like. As promised, this is a look at what are the chapters, the sections in the development services user fee schedule. So essentially all the areas that fall inside our department, the entitlement and planning, the utilities, the civil engineering plan review. We'll talk about section 4 a little bit more on the next slide, the building safety and vertical construction, as we call it. There's also fees related to fire safety. And then business licensing is also tucked into that. I have a special slide near the end of the presentation on what we've done or proposing to do with business licenses. And then also within the current fee schedule is the incentive districts. As you may be aware, Council, the last few years we brought forward some changes. That includes a discount on the user fee schedule, which is everything in this booklet, in and around the downtown area to help incentivize development. What this doesn't cover is impact fees. You'll recall impact fees were updated and became effective in May of this year. So that work is done. And again, the incentive district does not cover impact fees. The other departments, as you read in the workshop title, Mayor, Airport, Public Works, and Utility Billing have some changes as well. They're not included in the development user fee schedule, but they will be brought back in March or April when we bring the fees back for adoption. So maybe a bit of a special case. A lot of the other fees we'll talk about tonight are set based on cost recovery model of how much staff time, resources are put into it. Building valuations is used as a special case for building, plan review, and permitting. A couple notable points there. This represents about 90% of the revenue that comes from development-related permits and activity and plan review. But because you can't account for all the different types of construction activity, large and small, industry standard here in the Valley, in Buckeye, internationally, and across our country is to use what's called the building valuation data table. It takes the construction type that's occurring and the use that's occurring in that building and it creates a per square foot cost. So that's how we'll calculate, again, going forward like we've done for the last several decades of calculating and arriving at plan review and permit fees for vertical construction. Those tables are published twice a year by the International Code Council, both in February and August. Currently, we are operating under the 2017 Building Valuation Data Table in Buckeye. A few other cities in the Greater Valley are doing that, but as you can imagine, cities who have updated their user fee schedule over the last few years have updated that table. Some cities they continue to update that annually or even more often than annually. Surprise, for example, just lists it in their fee schedule that every time a new updated table is published by the ICC, they adopt that schedule. So we are recommending as part of this update when we come back in March to create a standard that we will update annually to the February edition of the Building Valuation Data Table. And what that does for us, Mayor and Council, is that, as you may recall, 2019-2020 saw a drastic rise in construction costs for labor and materials, and that makes us more current with the market, what we would charge for permitting and plan review fees, and keeps us competitive with the rest of the valley. So we'll take a look at the rest of the fee schedule and the way we approached it. Again, this is one of the council's strategic plan items we hope to achieve this year or early into next year, which we're on target for that, is specifically to develop a user fee cost recovery philosophy. It's not specific to development services, as you're going to hear. That's the theme of Miranda's presentation as well. One of the other things that's occurred over the last few years is the effort with lean and continuous improvement activities in the city. So you'll see some fee categories are actually proposed to decrease a little bit. That's representative of the staff time that's saved because we've introduced some new techniques and processes to save our customers time on the back end and throughout the process. And then again, our target in development services is to move almost all of our fee categories to approximate a 100% cost recovery. These fees, again, they're related to the infrastructure construction, but also private development that's occurring for growth in our community. I did want to mention one other topic. Some of the areas you may be wondering, well, is there a category where we wouldn't seek to achieve 100% cost recovery? And one example of that, and really one of the only ones, is our pre-application conference fee. It's set at a level that encourages early engagement with our staff and conversation rather than people avoiding that and hoping for the best, but then maybe being surprised by not asking questions early enough in a process for development. So that fee level is set, I believe, at $500. There's a lot more staff time involved in that. Nearly every development discipline and even ancillary disciplines such as utilities and community services may weigh in on a project, may have some impact on trails or parks. And so to give our customers the best opportunity for success down the road, either through a council action or their site planning process, we engage a lot of staff up front. And then a second one would be the special event process. Again, it involves a lot of departments, a lot of disciplines within those departments. But that fee is set at $100 currently, and it's proposed to retain that fee at $100, really to encourage people to participate in that permitting process, but it also provides a community benefit to have special events in Buckeye. So the steps in the user fee adoption process, pretty simple. A, B, C here. First, a look at the existing categories today, making sure they're still representative of what occurs in Buckeye. Some of those fees we no longer need or antiquated, we don't have those types of processes, have been removed. But we have new fee categories that we've recognized through the last 5 or 6 years that didn't exist, but we need to start accounting for those. One of those would be a temporary C of O for a project. Someone ready to move into a space that's perfectly safe, but they haven't finished maybe some exterior cladding or landscaping requirements, so we can't offer them a full C of O, but we'll more than willing to offer them a temporary CO until they complete those remaining punch list items. And then essentially allocating task time to those fee types, who and how long are they spending on those reviews or those inspections, and then taking a look to make sure we sort of gut check our fee proposals with the municipalities in the West Valley in particular. So just a quick look, I won't dwell on this slide, but this is how you go in. We go into allocating task time to a proposed or a fee level. So this one, for example, was major site plan. So we looked at who touches a major site plan, who reviews them, and on average, depending on, for a major site plan, based on square footage, how much time are each of these disciplines spending on this project. So that times the hourly rate gives us a proposed fee level for that category. We do this for each fee type. As you can imagine, we have, if you're into Excel, there's lots of deep Excel tables available for review as we go through this. One of the things, after we set that proposed fee level, we anticipate, on average, how long we spend on that. We want to make sure we're not out of alignment with what other jurisdictions are charging. We've gone through and we've done a select few comparisons based on our highest volume permit types. So here's a few of them here: site plans, C of Os, plan reviews, and traffic control plans, which is a new fee for us. Just compared to the average here in that second column, so in alignment. And you can see, as I talked about earlier, some fees are going down. A good example is a general site plan has gone down by a few $100, $200 and some change, and that's also representative of the state legislature has mandated that site plans are 100% administrative, so there's a reduced amount of staff time involved in getting that across the finish line. So we've done this in not only the development services and the plan review side of things, but through select few categories as well, making sure that we're not out of alignment.
That reduction, the legislative action in that reduction, is probably not inexact. It's a couple $100 cheaper to do the site plan with the clients because they're not having to go through the entire process of going to P&Z or potentially council. Actually, those just go to P&Z or used to.
Correct.
So with staff not having to go through that additional work to get it through the P&Z process, then it reduces the amount. This is a very specific example of where we're becoming more efficient, it's less money for us, and we pass that savings on to the clients.
Absolutely, that's right. And as promised in the agenda slide, there were some changes both up and down. We'll start on the left side, so maybe some of the good news. Mids and SLIDs, those are maintenance improvement districts and streetlight improvement districts. We have had feedback over the last few years that ours are much higher than processing those types of agreements through other cities. And those come through council. Those essentially say when a new subdivision form or a new development occurs in a maintenance improvement district, we're recording the opportunity for the city of Buckeye to go through and cause to occur landscaping updates or maintenance on a site that may become overgrown or dilapidated or present a poor appearance to the city. We don't activate those unless the subdivision goes sort of dormant, and a streetlight improvement district creates an opportunity for the city to pass on the cost to provide power to streetlights based on who the adjacent owner is. In the past, those were based on the fees that we would charge customers directly for the services that were outsourced for legal and for engineering in 2018, 2017, when those fees were first set up. A drastic increase in this case because it's all in-house and we're pretty efficient at that process now, and you'll see them on consent agendas almost monthly. And then planned unit plan amendments, that one is also going down. As you can imagine, another administrative change, and how much of that process is involved as more just staff time, reduced staff time and not processing through the Planning and Zoning Commission. Maybe on the flip side, a few that our customers will see are going up in significant, these top three most significant ones. Grading permits, we've realized that due to the average grading project size increasing, Buckeye seeing a lot more employment, industrial, larger multifamily complexes. Our staff, after it's reviewed, is out on site almost daily for these projects, and they're spending much more hours on the site walking just half mile of footing for a large million-square-foot building. Similarly, a concept site plan is increasing, but I'll tell you, a concept site plan is not the same thing we talked about on the previous slide. This is more of a different path someone can choose if they're not going through the full site planning process. This is one of those low volume projects. We don't see a lot of these, but because we've taken the approach in Buckeye of trying to give the customer the best opportunity for success, this touches a lot more hands than it had in the past, and so it's a lot more staff time involved. And that's, again, it's an opportunity for an applicant to choose that path. Then variances, I did the math, we have less than one a year. We've had one in the last 4 years that I've been here. Again, not a high volume project, but because of the staff time involved in processes of going through various boards for that approval, the staff time, cost recovery has increased. And then just a note across the bottom in bold for you, the proposed fee schedule that will come back as of now to you in the spring. There's no fee that exceeds a 100% cost recovery proposal. And then maybe just another highlight of some positive news, in particular with business licenses. Because currently we have 17 different fee categories for business licenses, and the fees range from 0 to 1,000, really 0 to 250 if you exclude marijuana dispensaries and sexually oriented businesses. With this update, we'll be timing an ordinance update to the business license code, which simplifies to one general category. Again, the intent really isn't to be punitive or to push people or discourage people from getting business licenses, but to capture as many businesses as possible and be a service to them and a resource. So a one-time application fee of $25 for all businesses with the exception of the two specialties, then an annual fee of $50 is what's being proposed. And then maintaining those bottom two category application fees and annual fees are set where they are because they involve, as you can imagine, a little bit more just discernment on the staff side. There's a little more background checks, there's more reviews of the business operations and layout and security for the marijuana dispensary.
But the business, so a business license, if I'm coming in, just get a typical business license, there's an application fee of $25 that, once I've paid that, I'm not paying that again. And then it's an annual $50 fee, and as long as I stay in good standing, I'm just paying $50 a year for the business license in the city of Buckeye.
Correct.
And that number was determined, again, like all the rest of these, that's basically a repayment of the staff time that goes into processing that business license each year. It's a reprocess, I guess, of that. Sending out the notice, collecting the information, or collecting the fee, collecting the information from the business. And
That's right. So it's not just the administrator processing it. There's also a check to make sure that use is allowed, the proposed address that comes along with that business license. And then there's, basic mailing costs, those sorts of items as well. And some of those business licenses, you can imagine, they're required to have additional elements attached to them if you're a food business or a liquor license business. So there's built-in time associated with that. But also, I will clarify, with business licenses, one of the other things we did was do a comparison with other cities and their approach to that as well. And it seems to be becoming more of a standard in the valley is to reduce that, because you're really not trying to set your fees so high that it maybe discourage the smallest businesses from becoming, sort of a registered business with your community. And then, record time. We're coming to the end here, Mayor and Council. Happy to take questions on the next slide, but after this workshop tonight, we anticipate in the next few weeks the final draft of the study, which is a document from our consultant MGT that looked at all those categories, every category we had, and all the staff time involved, proposed a fee level at or right below 100% cost recovery, and we will look to do a staff internal review of all the different disciplines and departments, and then post that to our website and make council aware of that. It will be the 60-day statutory requirement for public notice and comment. In the spring, we'll be reviewing those comments, and then either late March, most likely early April, bring back to council for final consideration of this fee schedule, but also those, for example, the airport fee schedule that's being updated will be about 1 page. There's not very many fees at the airport. And then again, with public works and maybe utility billing, a couple fees just increasing slightly as well. With that, Mayor and Council, if you want to ask me questions, it's up to you. If you want to wait till after Miranda's questions and ask the questions of both, or presentation.
yeah, any questions specific to development services over at this point? I think probably for the end of it, but just something to consider when we're establishing these. We go through this painstaking process of analyzing every single item we're charging a fee for, and then we create these fees, and this might be more toward like the events or things like that, and they seem completely reasonable when we're implementing them at this point, especially if we're lowering fees from the development services perspective. Hopefully, community services can do exactly the same. Nothing against Pop Brandon. But when you get out and people are actually coming in and applying for an event license or an event permit or doing some of these other tasks that require a fee to be paid, the way it lives is different than the way we design and create it right here from a fee perspective. And maybe we go through the fees that you're going to talk about in the update. But it seems like there's always, this is completely rational, and then it gets into the real world, and someone is doing that from an event perspective. Someone's doing a not-for-profit. This is total an event that is being put on that is all the funds are going back to a certain, to feed homeless or to help those in need or something along those lines. And the city comes in and charges I'm making up numbers, but a $300 fee, and it takes all of the I think the wind out of the sails of people in the community when that happens. I completely understand what we're creating here and why we do that. We can't pick winners and losers in all of this, but when we approve these, then we get out into actual practice, and then we get phone calls of, why would you charge a fee for that? That's horrible, and you're terrible people. That's not the case. It's we're trying to recover costs and make sure that in some of these cases there's a lot of staff time that goes into supporting an event that's on 6th Street or something along those lines. So maybe.
Can I just answer briefly, Mayor? I think the city manager's office, the city attorney's office could correct me, but one of the things we can do after we publish our 60-day notices, fees can be lowered in that time. We just wouldn't be able to increase them. So if there's an interest in exploring how we treat events or categories of events, there's certainly direction staff would be willing to take.
And based on that, I'm assuming there's not those categories now.
As far as special event permits, council member or vice mayor, excuse me, no, we have a flat fee of $100, so we don't have an exemption that exists today for nonprofits.
Okay, Miranda.
Okay. So welcome. So it's interesting, thank you, Mayor and Council, for letting me also present and talk with you about fees this evening. It's interesting that we're talking about those because my discussion is really going to focus less on fees and more on the philosophy of setting fees. And so we're going to shift gears and discuss the concept of adopting a cost recovery philosophy and why utilizing this approach when setting fees allows for a more effective and transparent frameworks than traditional just fee setting. So for exactly what you're saying, we go in, we set these fees, we go put it into practice, and maybe it works the way that we want it to, maybe it doesn't. And the approach that I'm going to talk with you about tonight is really setting our programs and services into cost recovery categories that then associate with a cost recovery percentage that we're expected to achieve, and then kind of adjusting our way through that as maybe some things change in the field. So I'll give you a little bit of background about fee setting and community services, how we got here, and again talk a little bit about the difference between fee setting and the cost recovery philosophy. Talk about those program category classifications, and then ultimately where we are recommending the cost recovery percentages to live. So, first record I could find of our fee schedule being adopted was in 2006. And if you take our 2006 fee schedule versus today, you'll see that they are very similar. Some of those fee categories have not changed at all since 2006. The way that fees were set back then, kind of what Brian said, you take a look at the cost of what you think the cost of a program is going to be, you take a look at your staff time, and then you set a fee. You look at what everybody else is charging, and then you set a fee. In 2016, our Parks and Recreation Master Plan, one of the objectives from that plan was to really adopt a cost recovery philosophy for programs and services and suggested this community benefit pyramid. And this is probably familiar to you, so it's the pyramid basically states that the more community benefit, the larger the subsidy, and the more individualized the service, the less the subsidy. So the cost recovery percentage would go up the further up the pyramid that you go. And then in 2021, the Community Services Department engaged a consultant 110%. That's the name of the consulting company. And we talked about cost recovery both with staff, with our advisory board, and then we brought, some of you may remember, we brought this subject to you in a workshop at that time as well. And at that time, what we were talking about is kind of placing these programs in categories that make sense, which programs make sense, what belongs together, and where do they fall up this cost recovery continuum. And then over the last couple of years, we've participated in the MGT study alongside our friends in Development Services and the rest of the city, and gone through the same exercise that Brian just described to you in the earlier slides. When we take a look at cost recovery and community services, the one thing that I will say that makes us a little bit different is the way that we approached cost recovery, the cost of a program is, if I took this karate class that I offer at my rec center and I stopped offering that karate class, what would the actual savings be? Because you can go down the rabbit hole of, there's an electricity cost to the program, but the reality is if I don't offer the karate class in the rec center at 4 o'clock on Tuesday, I don't turn off the air conditioning. So we took a look at the actual cost to do the programs and services and the staffing directly related to that. So taking a look at why am I suggesting that we take a look at cost recovery, we're still going to do a fee setting exercise, you're still going to get a fee schedule from us, but the reason that I want to focus the discussion on the cost recovery philosophy is that it's setting a financial strategy that will guide how our department balances the public investment versus user fees, what needs to be 100% covered by a user fee and what's a public investment. The cost recovery goals are set by you, so we're looking for guidance from you. They're obviously recommended by us. And as you'll see, the services that provide the most broad community benefits are more highly subsidized, the ones that, when you're talking about the broad community services, you're thinking about access to parks, access to trails, access to some of our public facilities. Some of our services that have more of an individual benefit are going to be suggested to either fully cost recovery or mostly cost recovery. So when Brian brings his family down to the aquatic center and he buys them all a candy bar, the suggestion is going to be that he's paying for that candy bar. We're not subsidizing his future dental bills, right? But maybe access to that facility is what's subsidized through general funds and so forth. This process will also allow, we're already allowed, but it will, the way that we're approaching this is that we would analyze our programs and services on an annual basis. And we would know our goal, we would take a look at how we executed and determine did we meet that goal or not, and then look to adjust for the following year if needed. So what I want to stress in that is that doesn't necessarily mean a higher cost to do the program. It could mean that we need to look at our minimum number of enrollments. It could mean that we need to look at, how we're bringing in supplies, or, how many hours we're taking to do that program. So it does give us some flexibility to either reduce costs or increase revenues. Maybe we just need to market better. So in this scenario, the fee would equal the cost of the program times the cost recovery goal divided by the number of participants. So for easy math, if you have a program that you're spending $100 on and you've got 10 participants, you want 100% cost recovery, everybody's paying $10 for that cost. So again, historically, fees have been established by program, sometimes based on maybe a past practice rather than being guided by a consistent fee framework. So while the fee setting remains an important tool in comparing against what other cities are charging and so forth, on its own it doesn't fully reflect the true cost of delivering the services balanced with the community benefit of what we provide. So the cost recovery philosophy shifts this conversation of what should be changed to what is the appropriate level of investment or user contribution for each service. It's going to allow us to clearly understand the full cost of programs, which we have now, intentionally align those fees with community priorities, and make informed values-based decisions that are consistent and balanced and then transparent, because you're going to know what these cost recovery goals are. We're going to talk about this on the next slide. Again, I believe that the approach supports consistency, transparency, and flexibility. And it provides you with a clear policy lens of how we evaluate these programs and ensures sustainability. So this is a look at our pyramid and the program categories. These programs are categorized based on information received dating back from 2021 and then on through. We've kept up with those studies every year since 2021. So it is a lot of information, but again, you can see that kind of as you work your way up the pyramid, rentals, permits, sales, the cost of field trips, those very individualized programs become, we'd be looking for 100% cost recovery. Yes, sir.
So is this as it exists, or what do you hope to create?
This is what I'm proposing that we would bring back to you for adoption. I'm going to show you as it exists today on the next slide. So when you take a look at our categories, we have a few that are out of alignment with what was on the previous slide. So our advanced skill-based activities are below that 70 to 100%. Some of our specialized business services and our rentals and permits. Now the study that MGT completed was, they're grouped together. So over the next year, what we would be looking to do is go through and really drill down on all of these different programs. And again, it might just be that we need to take our minimum number of participants from 10 to 12, and now we're in the cost recovery range. So staff would be working specifically on those three, but then analyzing regularly as we keep going. One other point that I meant to mention on this slide is this is considering user fees, so other things like sponsorships, grants, things like that would be above and beyond that. So when you look at something like an event, this would be user fees maybe for entry, for vendor fees, for things like that. But we do have staff that goes out and solicits sponsorships, solicits other ways for us to earn revenues for some of these programs. So looking at our timeline, we just have one more step than Brian. We did take this to our Community Services Advisory Board on November 19th. They reviewed it and approved it and recommended it for us to bring it forward to you. We've got this council workshop today. There is the 60-day notice. We would bring back, again, there will be a fee schedule that aligns with those cost recovery goals. So you would see by program, you'll see ranges for our programs and services that would allow us to move around a little bit to ensure that we're meeting in those cost recovery goals. You'll see the cost recovery goal, and then those will come back to you for final consideration in April. And with that, Brian is still standing by. Any questions?
Any questions from council?
Yeah. My prior life, I had to deal with fees a lot, course fees specifically, and one of the big criticisms from students were, I'm paying this fee, but I'm not getting any value for it. And on the other side, faculty were hoarding their fees, right? Saving up for big ticket items when the philosophy of the fee was, you're paying a $10 course fee, you should get $10 worth of value within that particular course. So it sounds like what you're proposing is avoiding a lot of that hoarding. What you're collecting is then covering the cost of that particular class or service.
Correct. And it avoids and I don't want to insinuate that we have anyone that does this, but if we don't have a set of guidelines that says this is how much you need to go and plan, this is what we need to set the fee based on, then what do you base it on, right? You can base it on what Surprise is charging, but maybe we're providing more value than Surprise is in our karate class, or so if you take a look at what you're doing, and we have an agreement of what that cost recovered should be, then it takes the feelings out of, maybe swimming is my very favorite, so I think that should be available to everybody, but I don't feel the same thing about mountain biking. It makes it a very transparent, agreed upon structure that, it, again, can be analyzed every single year and can be adjusted.
Well, I'm glad you said that, because the other part, you had mentioned that, hey, we just increased the number of enrollees in a particular class from 10 to 12. Well, then it gets into the question, well, I have 11.
Right.
My break even's 12, but I have 11. So, as a management decision, then do I get that 11, allow that to go, and we're, hopefully another program is over enrolled and it balances out. So I would hope, and I'm assuming yes, that kind of flexibility is baked into how we do this, that it's not so cut and dry, that if we don't hit our break-even amount, that there's opportunities for those lower enrolled things to go, and over enrolled classes are subsidizing those that are under enrolled.
That's exactly right. So if you talk to any of my staff, you'll know that one of my biggest peeves is we don't cancel classes. I believe that we can do enough work on the front end to know what the community is wanting and offer a class at the right time in the right place to get the right enrollment, right? But exactly what you're saying happens sometimes, and sometimes you need to get those 11 folks in to go tell 11 of their friends so that the next time we've got 33. So that was bad math.
Yeah, it's okay.
But the point is, you're exactly right. Yes, the idea is it gives us some flexibility to kind of move around. We know what the goal is. We can go set the fees to allow ourselves the flexibility to get there, and then we can analyze it, because also on the other side of that is there are some sometimes we have some historical programs that we've always offered, and we offer them because we've always offered them, and there's somebody brought this program and started it, and we've always offered it, but we're not getting the enrollment, we're not getting the enrollment. So it also gives us the tools to say, hey, we've done this a few times, we're not getting the enrollment, it's time to maybe do something different with those resources. So I think it's both. It gives us the support to get creative and flexible, but it also gives us the tool to notice when something maybe needs change.
No, I think it's good, and it's well thought out. There's a subsidy applied where subsidies should be applied, and others need to make their own way, so I think it's good.
Vice Mayor, did you have any comment on Miranda saying she doesn't care about mountain biking? I was worried.
Well, I knew that you would know that I was not being truthful about that. That's why I took that one.
Not true.
When's your evaluation?
You mentioned
I know.
comparing, I'm interested to see the comparison to other cities, but we have to be real careful with that, because it, just like every other fee or tax or revenue that we have in the city, versus the cost, it might be costing us a lot more to put on certain programs than it does in a Surprise or a Goodyear, or maybe a lot less. And then there's, I think, different philosophies on how they recoup cost. Some cities may be trying to incentivize a certain activity, or the council is really going to want mountain biking, so all mountain biking is completely free, whereas just riding around, so it's tough to compare ourselves to other municipalities, but appreciate that it's kind of a check-in and a sanity check for us as a city to see where our fees lie versus other municipalities.
I'm glad that you brought that up, and I don't know if Brian sees this in development services, but it's 100% accurate for my department, in that oftentimes it does cost us more to get vendors to the airport, for example, or for events, or it just does. We're further, it takes longer to get here, and so oftentimes to get some of our vendors and our providers to Buckeye to provide the services that we're providing, it does oftentimes cost more than what you might see, a little bit further closer to Phoenix. And so
That's where the cost recovery piece comes in, right? So Surprise may be a little less expensive, but we're recovering the actual cost.
Okay. Any other questions or comments from council? Okay. Thank you both. Look forward to seeing all this back in March. Yep. Okay. All right, fantastic. Well, with nothing else on the agenda, item 3 is adjourned. We are adjourned.